Hello, my name is Stephanie Lambert, and I serve as Chief Compliance Counsel at NetScout in Westford, Massachusetts. I recently started this position. I am a board member of the Association of Corporate Counsels Northeast chapter, where I serve as the chairperson of the Communications Committee. I am currently working remotely in my new position from home, and I'm enjoying a little bit of more time with my family as a result, and getting some time to eat lunch with my husband and attend to my family's needs as I can. My prior position was with a company where I'd been working for about 15 years in the legal department. And in September, my position was eliminated as a result of a corporate restructuring. So it had been about a good 15 years since I had attempted a serious job search. And so I learned quite a bit at that time about how job searches have changed as a result of technology. Today, most everything is done electronically, especially in the early stages of the job search process. The posting and even some of the interviews are done over Zoom and other types of technology media. I even found myself talking to an empty screen at times, answering interview questions. And so I learned that you really have to be online and connected through such job posting boards like LinkedIn, Indeed, and for in-house counsel, the goinhouse.com site. Your resume needs to be tailored to each job, and nowadays they're using algorithms as the first line of defense to find those candidates among the hundreds of entrants that they have. So your resume really needs to have those keywords that they're looking for in the particular job. And then I think probably one of the biggest areas is not only technology, but your personal connections. It's a way that you can kind of breach those technology road bumps along the way by reaching out to people that you know who might be working at companies that you're interested in pursuing. And I think finally, even if you think you have a great job opportunity, nowadays with the volatility of the job market, you really can't count on anything. And so you need to maintain your pipeline and continue to look at other opportunities, even if you're fairly confident that there's one that is looking right for you. Sure. So, I mean, let's face it, job searching is very stressful. There's a lot of waiting, a lot of uncertainty, and sometimes people are not as genuine as they should be. So to combat all of that stress, I felt it was important to keep a reasonably structured day for myself. Time for exercise, time for personal things, and family time, in addition to maintaining a regular job searching time during that day. Were there some days I was in my pajamas? Well, I won't lie. Yes, of course, you need to take those opportunities when they come. But I think that the more you keep it structured, the better off that you'll be over the long run, because it took me about 6 months, and nowadays some of these job searches could take longer. I also tried not to be constantly looking at job postings, and that can be challenging given the constant email alerts about different jobs that are popping up every minute of every day. I also planned outings to get out of the house. This was back before COVID-19, obviously, and to keep in touch with former colleagues and any other connections, as well as friends that I hadn't had a chance to see for a while. I also traveled to a couple educational programs to keep myself fresh, or to educate myself a little bit on some hot areas. So I chose programs on employment law, cybersecurity, and how to conduct investigations. And it turned out that those areas were relevant to the job that I eventually landed. It also helped to keep my spirits up, connecting with new people, and made me feel productive. Well, one of the biggest challenges for me was trying to cross over into new industries. I mean, it's very difficult, I think, for recruiters to overcome a bias or their view of a particular industry. They're very hyper-focused on checking every box for substantive legal experience, and they may be less interested in how your leadership or soft skills will help you manage that type of a transition. And though I think substantive skills are important, and as I mentioned, I tried to get a little bit deeper knowledge during my time, during the time I was unemployed, but those can be quickly picked up, I think. It's really the leadership and soft skills that are more difficult to train on and learn. And so while I was preparing for some of the job interviews, I spent a considerable amount of time crafting answers to potential questions. I also was lucky that some of my former colleagues were willing to spend time helping me prep and helping me to think about how my skill set could transfer into other industries or into other types of companies. And that was really very, very helpful. So I think the time you spend thinking about how your experience can translate into a new company or a new industry will help you make that argument and try to convince the recruiters that you should be their top candidate. Yes, I think self-care is really very important. You know, my self-care routine during my job search revolved around exercise. And so when obviously then the gym was open, I went most every day. I participated in yoga, which is a very relaxed, it's exercise, but it's also very relaxing and helps you practice mindfulness. I did some weight training and other types of classes. I even hired a personal trainer to help me achieve some fitness goals that I had. Not only was this great physically, but it also allowed me to meet people in the community who served as a support network outside of the legal profession. So there were retired people, former teachers, and parents of children from my kids' schools that I was able to socialize with. And I found this a nice diversion from, always talking about myself or always talking about the job search. And I think now as things are opening up, it's an opportunity to try to take advantage of the ability to meet with other people other than lawyers or those people, recruiters and people who are also searching for jobs. I continued to my volunteer activities at the church and at my school. It serves to help to kind of take your mind off the stress of the job search. So all of these self-care activities, helped me boost my self-esteem, keep up my confidence, and just generally have a positive perspective to life while you're, looking for that next great opportunity. Personal connections were by far the most important part of my job search. Remember that hundreds of people can be applying for the job that you think is the best fit or the next best step for you. And the only way to differentiate yourself is to try to get a personal connection in the door so that your resume can land with the right person. So proactively reaching out to connections enabled me to learn more about companies that I was interested, so to kind of set a foundation for any potential interview. And it also got me connections into people who were the decision makers. So ultimately, the job that I landed was the result of a 10-year professional relationship that I had developed at the Association of Corporate Counsel. So when the general counsel at NetScout had his head of compliance give her notice, I became his top candidate. And so the timing could not have worked out better for me. I was about at the 6-month point, just before everything started to shut down around COVID-19. So to the question, how important was it? It was the most important thing in me being where I am today. Yes, absolutely. I think networking turns out to be especially as you go along in your career, one of the most important aspects of career development, as well as finding those ultimate job positions, as I explained. And I think when I started out in my career, not having had the experiences that I've had, I didn't realize the value of networking. So the 2 times where I've been having to look for a job were both company downsizing. So if you're in-house counsel, you need to have that awareness that often the legal department could be the target of a downsizing, and you need to be ready for that. And the connections really can help you make a softer landing and enable you not to have to start from scratch. And so I think investing time throughout your career to develop those and maintain those connections is really very important to your well-being. So I will continue to do that, certainly as this pandemic eases and as life hopefully goes on to some semblance of normalcy. I think that I was impacted somewhat with this pandemic because I spent just a week in the office before we were forced to shut down. I think so just having to, stop and go back home was, kind of abruptly was somewhat challenging. I think though that most of my colleagues already do work remote because this is an international company with folks all over the globe, all over offices throughout the United States. So I think it ended up being fairly seamless. I had the advantage of being able to work on some new and interesting issues with my colleagues that were very pressing, the pressing issues of trying to deal with how we were going to address the changes in the working environment and the safety of our employees. And so, I think my colleagues were very welcoming, very supportive, and understanding that I might be challenged in joining a company and from a remote location. But with their support, I think that I've made a very successful transition. And I'm very happy and feel very blessed to be working for this company that whose business model with cybersecurity issues and monitoring internet services has it very well positioned. And so I don't have any complaints. I am looking forward to getting back into the office at some point, hopefully soon, so that I can have more face-to-face contact with the people that I work with.